Hello, beautiful people. Heather here. I'm at the beautiful Shelby Farms Park. This is my favorite place to be on a day off when I don't have to go into work. I just like to surround myself in nature. Man, I haven't posted a video in a while. I think the last video I posted was when Lester and I were checking out the eclipse in Dallas and Ennis, Texas. And that was almost exactly a year ago. So why haven't I posted in almost a year? Oh, that's an excellent question. I'm so glad you asked me that. I'll tell you. Let me make sure I'm not disturbing all these beautiful people at the park. It is Juneteenth, 2025, June 19th. Go freedom. So, where have I been for a year? I mean, honestly, 65% of the reason why I haven't posted is due to laziness and lack of motivation. I have videos that I could edit and post, but I haven't done that. And you know, if I want to be a vlogging YouTuber, I'm gonna have to get over that and post more often. But maybe I don't want to be a vlogging YouTuber. Maybe I just want to post whenever I feel like it. So I don't know, I gotta figure out what I want and then do the thing that gets me there. But the other 35% of the reason is because last year was such a hectic and stressful year. A lot of things happened last year. So I will go through them briefly. This will just be a brief update of what has happened, and hopefully I'll be posting more in the future. Maybe not, we'll see what the future holds. So I uploaded my eclipse video about a year ago. Soon after that, I went on vacation to Trinidad and Tobago. That's the country my dad is from. So my dad and I went to Trinidad and Tobago for about 10 days, about a week and a half. And then my brother came and joined us the last few days that we were there. So it was a really fun family trip. What types of flowers are those? They look like, I mean, I don't know. They're yellow like sunflowers, but those are not sunflowers. It's very beautiful. So I did vlog that trip. I have videos, those are the videos I have that I need to edit and upload. So you will be seeing them soon after this video. Soon I'll be sharing with you all my Trinidad and Tobago trip. It's gonna come out in parts, so that'll be fun. And then when I returned from Trinidad and Tobago, when I returned from my vacation, about 3 days later-ish, I'm not sure, 2 or 3 or 4 days later, I think it was like 3, I closed on my condo. So yeah, I am a homeowner. Let me let this dog pass. I am now a homeowner because I closed on a condo. And the condo I got, you know, it's more like a townhouse than an actual condo. I have a carport where I can place my car. I have a little porch, backyard. You know, it's small for a backyard, but it's bigger than anything I've ever had that I have plans for. There's so much space. I love it so much. And of course, the home buying process isn't something that happens in 3 days. So it's something I had been working on for a few months and really saving up for a couple years. So yeah, that was a great milestone, and that's something I absolutely should have posted about. But with home ownership comes stress. I was so stressed out. It was You know, actually getting the condo, like, it's a relief, but also so much more expenses and lots of back and forth. I don't know, I should tell a story about that. Either I'll have a story time or maybe I'll write it as a blog post. Who knows? We'll see. It was an amazing experience, though. My realtor was, shout out to my realtor. He was great. Darnell McCurdy in Memphis, Tennessee. Hit him up if you're in this area. If you want to buy a house, they are excellent. So I bought my condo. Then I had to move out of my apartment and into my condo. That was another highly stressful experience. I had to break my apartment lease because my lease would be up in February of the next year, and I bought my condo in July of 2024, so it wasn't worth it to keep it. Breaking the lease was cheaper than keeping it until February. So all of that process, the whole moving process, was very stressful as well. I did time it so that I would have 4 weeks to move. So I bought my condo on the end of July, and I had to be out of my apartment by the 1st of September. So I had all of the month of August to move. And my boyfriend Lester, he helped me out tremendously. I wouldn't have been able to do it without him. So thank you, Lester. It was still so stressful, so much work, but got that done. So ideally, after my Trinidad and Tobago trip, I would have edited and posted the videos in the weeks after. But since I had to deal with the whole drama with my condo, between closing on the house and moving out of my apartment, I just was so stressed and I had no time. And I could have made time if I really wanted to, but I didn't want to, so I didn't. So that was August. September 1st, I turned in my apartment keys August 31st, so that was excellent. And then September 1st, I'm fully moved into my new house, changing all the addresses and everything. It was great. But now I have boxes all over the place. The place is barely livable because of all the boxes everywhere. So I took a few weeks/months to move all the boxes and make my place my own. So, when I was doing that, along with balancing work and everything, I still didn't feel like editing and uploading those videos. And I'm thinking well, I can't record more videos if I haven't edited and posted the last ones. So, it kind of just becomes a downward spiral. So that's why I'm telling myself I have to decide if being a vlogger is what I want to do. Because if I do, then I can't let busyness and tiredness and stress keep me from posting and editing and uploading and recording. So, just things to decide and consider. Look at all the geese. Let's take a little rest on this bench, water break, all that. Drink water, everyone. So that was September. I'm fully into my new condo and I'm figuring out my new dynamic as a homeowner, as a property owner. My finances are higher. Not my finances, my expenses are higher because my mortgage was like double what my rent was. Also, I have this new HOA fee. Since it's a condo, I have an HOA fee that I have to pay. And also, because of my car accident back in April of 2024, I bought a new car, so that's a car payment that I didn't have before. So, I was doing pretty comfortably before all that, and then all of a sudden I'm like house poor, paycheck to paycheck. I mean, That's a whole thing to talk about. I'm okay overall. But September, in addition to setting up my new house, it was also all the stress of all the expenses of being a property owner. So that's that. I was probably in that state for about 2 months or a month and a half. So let's say that was September, October. Sure, September and October. All right, now November comes around. I'm getting settled. I'm more in a groove. I've canceled some unnecessary expenses so that I can have more money for daily life and everything, not feel like I'm broke. For example, I still do Pilates on my own, but I had to cancel my Pilates membership because for a gym membership it's pretty expensive. It works for me because I'm the type of person who needs direction. I need someone to tell me what to do. But, so Pilates was a good meteor. It was more than a gym membership, but it was less than a personal trainer. So it was perfect. It was right in the middle. Of course, I like the Pilates exercise regimen, and also the structure of the classes was really beneficial to who I am as a person. So that was great, but I had to cancel that. So once I'm, in a better financial place, I plan to start it up again, but I still do it on my own at home, at the park and everything. Anyway, this is not about Pilates. This is about what happened in the middle of November. So November comes around, I'm getting settled, I'm getting less stressed, I'm getting in the groove. I'm thinking, okay, maybe it's time to finally edit those Trinidad and Tobago videos and record some more videos about being a property owner. Bam! November 13th rolls around. I get an ominous meeting invite on my work calendar. I have a nervous suspicion about it, but I hop on the meeting and it's confirmed. It's my manager and a lady I've never seen before telling me that I have been laid off from my job. So that was a huge life experience and stressor. So I've worked for FedEx for about 8 years. Well, no, 7.5 years. From June 1st, 2017. All right, let's pause for a second. I worked for FedEx from June 1st, 2017, and then November 13th, 2024, I was laid off. And talk about bad timing, No one wants to buy a property in the summer and then get laid off in the fall. So that ruined my day. That ruined my mood. That caused a lot of stress. And I went right back into being so stressed and busy that I absolutely have no time to post and edit. Now, this is the one that might be semi-legitimate. All the others were just excuses. But I know that my channel is small and my blog is small. Maybe monetization will come one day, but this is absolutely just a hobby for now. So now that I was out of a job and I had a new property that I needed to pay the mortgage for or else it would be foreclosed, I just put all my energy into finding a new job, because if it wasn't making me money, then it was wasting time. That was kind of my philosophy. Fortunately, FedEx was very generous. Not only did I get a very good severance from them, but they notified me on April 13th, but my last day was technically going to be January 31st of 2025, and I would continue to get full payment until then. So that was a blessing. That was very generous and very fortunate. So I actually had some time to find a job, because in this market in these days, it's so It's so stressful and it's so impossible these days. It's not impossible, but it feels like it most of the time. So that was, and then I guess you can say, well, who's to stop them from, just jumping and finding another job? Like, it was weird. It was interesting. So they told me on November 13th, and my last day would be January 31st. But I didn't have to go into the office or anything. My responsibilities during that time was to transfer my role. And part of my severance package would be if I just abandoned it and I didn't transfer my role, then I wouldn't get the severance. It would breach the terms or whatever. That would be me voluntarily quitting, thus I wouldn't get the severance. So in order to get the severance, I had to be available until January 31st to transfer my role and my knowledge and everything, make sure they're not high and dry. So that was fine. I'm like, yeah, you're still paying me, so I'll do whatever you want. And I can stay home and, figure out my next steps. So that's what I did. I immediately jumped into the job hunting market. I think I took like 2 days break. 2 days and the weekend, probably, because if I recall correctly, November 13th, 2024 was a Wednesday. So I took Thursday and Friday to rest and recover, and then there was the weekend. And then Monday morning, I jumped in, updated my resume, updated LinkedIn, guns blazing. I jumped into the job market right before the holiday season, so that was fun. Anyway, long story short, I got a few interviews, maybe like 2, definitely 1 before the holiday season. Maybe another company as well, I'm not sure, I don't really remember. But other than that, it was like ghosts and crickets. I sent out, I kept a spreadsheet of all my job applications, so I'll be able to post here exactly how many jobs I applied to. I think it was like 200 or so, but that was total. That was from November to January. Before the holiday season, I'm not sure how much it was. It was probably like 50 or so because I really ramped it up towards the end. Anyway, November went by. I went to see my sister for Thanksgiving because that trip was already paid for. I bought the plane tickets already, so I may as well go. Had a nice time there. I went to Jonesboro with my mother for Christmas. November went by, December went by, and I still hadn't heard anything. I had a few interviews. I had a few, callbacks to like set up tests and screenings and things like that, personality tests. I even had one of those like virtual AI interviews where you're recording yourself answering the interview questions, but there's no one on the other side of it. I did those too. That was weird. I didn't know that existed until I found myself back into the job market. But by the middle of January, I had no solid leads, no offers, a couple interviews here and there, but they never really got past the first stage or second stage, because the first stage is usually like a recruiter interview, and then the second stage is the manager, and then ghosts after that. That happened a couple times. It seems like my camera is overheating, so I'm gonna let it cool down some, and then I'll continue the story later. All right, so hopefully my camera is feeling a little bit better now. I completed my walk around a lake. It was great. Lake is over there. All right, so what was I saying? By the middle of January, I still didn't have any leads. The work I was doing at FedEx was software development. I was a full stack developer, so I used mainly JavaScript. I programmed in JavaScript, so I programmed the front end with AngularJS and the back end with Node.js. And then I also managed the SQL database and everything. So that was the type of work I was doing. So that's the type of work and experience I put on my resume, and those were the types of jobs I was looking for. And on my birthday, January 13th, I was here at Shelby Farms. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, I had a lovely breakfast at Bell Tower Cafe, or Bell Tower Coffee Shop. It's a coffee shop here at Shelby Farms. I had this delicious Gruyere grilled cheese and it was, yeah, garlic Gruyere grilled cheese. It was really good, like a fancy grilled cheese sandwich. And I also had this berry and brie on toast. Brie is my favorite cheese in the whole world. So that was great. I had that for breakfast this morning before I went on my walk. But yeah, I was here on January 13th, my birthday. I was at Bell Tower Coffee House again, and I got a LinkedIn message from a recruiter saying like, hey, your resume looks impressive, your LinkedIn looks impressive. I have a job opportunity that you might be excited about. Care to hear more about it? And I'm like, sure, why not? I had received identical messages from recruiters like that for a while. They never really led anywhere, but I was also not really in a position to say no to anything. So I was, whatever came my way that I was remotely in my field, I would at least check it out. And, if it's a lost opportunity, if they ghost me, or if they're like, we're sorry, we went in a different direction, then you just move on to the next one. But who knows? You never know what can happen. So I responded back and I'm like, yeah, sure, I'm interested. I'm available anytime tomorrow for a talk. So that was that. I walked around the lake. I went and met my mother, did birthday things. Great day. I think the interview was actually scheduled for later that week. It was like Wednesday or Tuesday of that week. And it wasn't with the recruiter. It wasn't even with the manager. It was kind of like with a technical expert who was in the role. And so I met up with him, not thinking anything different from all the other interviews and recruiter talks I went to, except that this one, the software that they were using was so different from anything I had ever used before. I had never heard of it before. It was for a paper manufacturing company, not IP, not International Paper, or something else. FedEx, IP, and AutoZone are the three biggest job hirers in Memphis, but it was not IP. But he was talking about like PLCs and SCADA and Pi and MES, all these things I had never heard of before. And he was like showing me his software and asking me if, he knows that this would be a role to be trained in. Like whoever enters this role will have like a lot of learning and training to do, and they're prepared to train this person. So he wasn't expecting me to know what he was talking about, but he was just kind of giving me a feel for it. And he's like, do you think this would be an environment or a technology that you could potentially get into, or feel comfortable with? And also he said like this is an industrial environment, so sometimes you would have to wear safety gear, like hard hats and steel toe boots and and safety vests and all that. So is that okay? Like, do you think you could get into it? And really, I wasn't really feeling all that he was showing me. I was like, I've never seen this technology before. It looks foreign to me. It looks like an alien language. And I mean, safety gear, sure, that's okay, but it doesn't feel all that glamorous. Oh, I'm gonna let this fire truck pass by. So deep down, I was a little bit skeptical about the whole opportunity. But at the same time, like I said, I'm desperate here. I don't have a job. I'm not in a position to say no to anybody unless it's like, really demoralizing or expecting 10 years of experience for minimum wage pay or something like that. So I didn't share my skepticism with him. I was like, yeah, I can do it. I love to learn. I learn fast. I'm bright. I don't mind wearing safety gear. I can do it. I feel good about it. So that's how that went. That was like middle of January, a couple days after my birthday. And then I didn't hear anything after. So I was like, okay, well, another ghosting opportunity. Let's connect and explore some other opportunities. Let's do a couple more interviews. Let's fill out a couple hundred more job, what do you call those? Job applications. Let's fill out a couple dozen more applications, back at it. Now, so part of FedEx's severance was that if I accept the severance, then I cannot work for them for a year. But during that 3-month period from November to January 31st, which was my last day, if I were to get hired in another location at FedEx, I could do that, but I wouldn't get a severance. So I was still, I was looking at FedEx opportunities, seeing if there's other managers in FedEx who wants to hire me. There's also another caveat to that was FedEx was working very closely with a vendor company, a company that they hired to provide them with vendors. So the people that work there aren't employees, but they do a lot of work outsourcing and things like that. Since I was like so critical to one of their major projects, they were even considering me. Okay, so the company's name was Accenture. They wanted me to get hired under Accenture so that I could work for FedEx as a vendor. I was talking to my FedEx manager and, seeing if I was open to that. And of course, and if I did that, since I'm not working for FedEx, I would still get the severance. So, it's not my first choice, but if I didn't have anything else, I would have jumped into that because a contract role, basically doing the same thing I was doing with FedEx, it's better than nothing. So I was making some moves to probably set that up. I was talking to some other contract companies, doing interviews for them, getting some of those set up. And then finally, a month later, so, okay, now January 31st, I get my last paycheck from FedEx, and I have to make that last because now there's no more coming until my severance comes like a month later. So, now we're in the middle of February now, where I would be at FedEx. I got paid twice a month, so I would be getting a second paycheck, but there's no second paycheck coming. So, I really stretched out that first one. Tried to save as much as I could. So, things are getting dire. I filed for unemployment, but unemployment wasn't working because I think I put in my last FedEx paycheck as income when I shouldn't have done that. So they're like, oh, you're making too much money. You don't need employment. So I wasn't getting unemployment, which maybe they're right. Maybe I didn't need it. I don't know. Anyway, middle of February, the paper manufacturing company reaches out to me again. I was not expecting that. I thought they forgot about me. I kind of forgot about them. So the same recruiter who reached out to me on LinkedIn, she was like, Hey, Heather, you did very well with your interview that you had last month, and now we want to move forward with an in-person interview. Would you be available this coming Thursday? I think they gave me like a week notice or something. And I was like, oh snap. Well, okay, sure. So, I'm in the middle of setting something up with FedEx slash Accenture. I'm in the middle of talking to this other contract role. And now the paper manufacturing company comes back and they're like, hey, we want you to come for a second interview. So I had three things going, a lot of hope there. So I was like, all right, out of these three, something's going to happen. Because if the paper manufacturing company doesn't like me, and if the other contract role goes with someone else, at least I know FedEx is desperate to have me. So at the very least, I can have that contract role with FedEx, Accenture. Um, so I go to the in-person paper manufacturing company interview, and I learn a lot about it. I hear that it's like a Canadian company, and the technical expert who gave me the first interview, that was a Zoom interview, but now he flew down from Canada to Memphis to conduct the in-person interviews. There's at least one other person in addition to me who was being interviewed. I don't know how many in total. Um, but I go there and, you know, he writes on his whiteboard. He's kind of like a professor. He writes down and draws pictures of everything that they're working with and exactly the specific type of role they need, and how there's like IT is up here and then the operational program is down here, but we need OT right in the middle, and that's you or somebody. That's who they need to hire. And it made sense. It clicked for me. I was like, okay, I get it. I think I can do this. And then I put on my safety gear. They gave me a hard hat and gloves and vest, and I got a tour of their manufacturing area where they're making all the paper. And that was pretty cool. I mean, I liked the tour. I got a little hesitant though, because I saw the type of work environment it was, and I was here thinking like, okay, so this is paper. It can go one of two ways. Either paper is cheap, so everyone is paid not as competitively as they could be, or everyone uses paper, so they have bunches of money and people are paid very competitively. I was like, this is good, and I could work here, I could see it working, but I'm not going to settle. If it doesn't match my career budget, I'm not going to settle for it. I'm going to walk. The only way I would work here is if they meet my budget. So I go on the tour, and then I come back and I meet with the expert again, and then he gives me some tests. He gives me some tests in SQL, which I aced. I love SQL. And then he gave me some tests in Python. And Python is cool, but I haven't worked with it as much, so I didn't do as well in the Python test, and I was kind of nervous about that. But then he's like, well, I just want to test your skills to make sure you're not lying to me, because the guy we were interviewing before was BSing me. So you say you're a developer, choose a language, and you can do a test in that language, because I just want to make sure you actually know what you're doing, or you can actually do what you say you can do. And if I know you're a developer, then language is semantics, which is true. Language is semantics. Like, I can pick up Python easily. I just wasn't very super familiar with all the syntax of it and everything. Like, if statements don't have parentheses, but you have to put a colon and stuff like that. But that stuff is not hard. So he told me to pick a language, and I picked JavaScript because that's what I had been doing at FedEx. And then I aced it, so I could tell. Like, he was satisfied. He was like, yeah, now I know you're not lying. And I could tell that he really liked me. And I felt it in my bones. I was like, I'm gonna get this job. Or they're gonna offer me this job. Do I want this job? That's what I was trying, that's what I was like dealing with. or that was the question I had for myself. So after I met with the technical expert again, I went across the hall to the HR lady, and finally we were able to discuss salaries because the job posting didn't have it listed. It wasn't mentioned at all in the first interview. And many people are like, oh, if you're not going to put it up, if you're not going to be upfront with it, then don't waste my time. I mean, I'm leaving myself open here because this job market is tough. So even if you waste my time and then it comes something way under than what I can accept, I don't consider that a time wasting. I mean, at the very least, I got some interview practice or whatever. So I talk numbers with the HR lady. They say whoever gives a number first loses. I don't know. I just made sure that the number I gave was above what I was making at FedEx, and it was competitive to, it was comparable to what a software developer with 8 years of experience, 7.5 years, comparable with that. And I gave my number. I gave a number that I would need, that I was comfortable with, that I would need to, stay afloat and pay all my bills and everything, and which was higher than what I was making at FedEx. And the HR lady said, well, you're underselling yourself because our position, our budget is higher than that. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. Oh my gosh. So that, I don't know. Money isn't the only thing that matters, but money matters a lot. People need money, yo. I bought a house, I need some money. After that conversation, that's when I really got excited about the role. Because I was like, I like the type of work that I would potentially be doing. And the budget is in my range and above. And it feels like the guy really likes me. Like, it feels like he wants to hire me today. So I went home feeling good. And, prayers answered and hard work paid off. The next week, I think it was like exactly a week, the HR lady contacted me again, and she told me that she has good news because she wants to give me a job offer, and it was great. It was so, I was so happy, man. So, the salary in the job offer was 10% higher than the number I gave her, so that really worked in my favor. Oftentimes they tell you not to give a number because whatever number you give them, they'll just offer you that even if it's way under what the market rate is. In this case, she offered me higher, and I'm very fortunate and grateful and happy about that. And everyone is understanding that this is a training role. Like, there's a lot I'm gonna have to learn. So, she said once I learn it and once I'm like a master at it, I can definitely be making more than what I was offered. So for that to be the starting point, I hesitate to give actual numbers. Maybe I should give actual numbers, but I will hold it back right just for now. I don't want to give away too much about my situation. Anyway, that was great. So I think February 12th was when I received the offer. So I got things mixed up a bit. I said it was the middle of February that I got the interview, but I guess it was the beginning of February. February 12th, I got the offer, and my start date was March 10th. And then in the weeks following, she said that, I kept in contact with her. I signed the offer letter. I returned to FedEx saying that, sorry, I was able to find another opportunity, so I won't be available to do this contract thing. And I also let the other contract company that I was talking to know that I was no longer available. And in the coming weeks, I kept talking to the new company, and the HR lady, she communicated with me that I will probably be spending some time in Canada for training for this new job. And wow, that was so exciting. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, wow, I went from laid off to new job to work travel to Canada. Like, oh my gosh, that was. So she's like, you could spend like 1 to 4 weeks in Canada. And then later on, the next week, when I met up with her, she was like, oh, did I say 1 to 4 weeks? How about like 4.5 weeks? We need you in Canada for 4.5 weeks. I'm like, what? Oh gosh. So, no, that was cool. So March 10th was my first day. I spent 2 days in Memphis. I did all the HR things I needed to get. I got my company laptop and company cell phone. And then March 12th, I was on a plane up to Montreal. Fortunately, I had a passport. That's one of the things she asked me. She's like, do you have a passport? And I'm like, yes, I do. And she's like, oh, okay, good. So, yeah, I had my passport March 12th to April 17th. I spent it in Canada. And I flew up to Montreal, but I drove to Sherbrooke. Sherbrooke is a small city 2 hours away from Montreal, but they don't have an airport. So I flew to Montreal and drove to Sherbrooke. Stayed there for, 4.5 weeks, 5 weeks, I don't know. March 12th to April 17th, that's like exactly a month, or a week shy of a month, so, you can do the math. But yeah, I learned so much. I had a great experience with my new job and in Canada, in Sherbrooke, learning to roll, exploring while I can. It was so cold. It was so cold up there. And that was the end of their winter. It was like in the 20s and 30s. On a good day, it would come up to the 50s. Meanwhile, in Memphis, the coldest it would be, especially when it got into April, it would be like in the 50s and 60s and 70s. And Sherbrooke is in the 20s and 30s and 40s, and then maybe 50. But it was so cool. It was a wonderful experience. I learned so much. And now I can say that I'm a SCADA developer now. I had no idea what SCADA was, but that is 90% of what I do, and it's so fulfilling. I'm an industrial programmer. I can read data from PLCs, the machines that they use to make paper. From the beginning to the end, so many machines are involved in that process, and I can connect to those machines and read data from them, and I can even control them as well, but I don't do that as often. Usually I read data from them and I use it to present dashboards and show reports and everything, and it was a lot. But yeah, wow, I didn't know I was going to talk so long about that, but that was just a wonderful experience, spending all those weeks in Canada and calling and video calling my loved ones. It was cool. I went to a Nordic spa. That was nice. So it's like they have hot water baths and cold water plunges and saunas and massages. So that was a good experience. I didn't really record that because it was sort of like a technology-free disconnect zone. But that was nice. And then as a group, we went to a sugar shack. That is where they make the maple syrup. So it was right in the middle of maple syrup season, which is only a few weeks out of the year. So it was perfect. That was fun. I enjoyed that. I got to eat a feast and then also, eat fresh made maple syrup. They laid it out and you could scoop it up with popsicle sticks and just eat them like that. So that was a great experience. It was so nice. It was so fulfilling spending that time in Canada. Then I came back to Memphis and April, May, now it's June. So I've been with the company 3 months. I've been 1 month in Canada and 2 months in Memphis, and yeah, it's really keeping me busy. I like it a lot. It's really such a turnaround. I didn't expect this life shift, but here I am. A year ago I was working for FedEx in an apartment, and now I'm working for this new company in a condo. Um, so yeah, that's what I've been up to, and that's what has been keeping me busy for a year. And now that I'm on the other side of this, I still have projects I want to do on my house. I still have life updates, so maybe I'll be posting more frequently to keep you updated as I go, instead of in just one large chunk at the end of a year or in the middle of a year. So that's it. That's what I've been doing. That's what I've been up to. Let me know what questions you have or what you want to see. I'm here. I'm just chilling on this green earth. I was very fortunate to get the job like I did and when I did. I know that it's really brutal out there. Really uncertain times. I don't even know what's coming. Anyway, thank you all. If you made it this far, I appreciate you coming in to check in on my life. Little update. And hopefully I'll see you soon in the next one. I'll catch you all later. Bye.